Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ball Around the Head. In case you haven't noticed, we do not have Ben here this week, but instead we got the Washington Mamba Kyle with us. What's up, Kyle?
What's going on, guys? I have big shoes to fill tonight, but I think I can do it. I'm up to the task.
Yes, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about because in the NBA, a bunch of stuff happened. As you guys know, we mentioned on our podcast, it was the trade deadline. And for those who weren't aware, there were 16 trades, 23 teams, and 46 roster players moved on that day, most in those categories in the past 35 years. So there was a bunch of action going on. I believe 3 teams did not make a trade all year long, which were the Lakers, Timberwolves, and Grizzlies, which is very crazy to think about. But I'm going to ask you guys, since with all those trades, I'm going to ask our guest first. Kyle, who won the NBA trade deadline?
It's a good question. I guess if I had to go with a team or a player or something, I really liked what the Blazers did with Norman Powell. I really liked that. Gary Trent Jr., he's my guy. I'm a big Blazer guy, Pacific Northwest, everything. So I was sad to see him go, and Rodney Hood I could really care less about, I guess. But I think Norman Powell, he's a more complete player. You know, his one equals, I feel like, both of those guys. So I feel like it was an equal trade. And the Raptors, they kept Kyle Lowry and everything. So I feel like those two teams just that was kind of under the radar. I felt like Norman Powell, I feel like he's underrated and everything. So I really like that trade.
All right, Andrew?
Yeah, Norman Powell is a pretty good one. The Toronto Raptors still have Fred VanVleet, so they're in good hands. But my favorite trade was the Rondo to the Clippers because Lou Will, he was kind of the old face of the Clippers, and that's when Montrez, Lou Will, and Pat Beverly ran it. And then Kawhi and Paul George come into town, and they were kind of casted aside. And Lou Will can finally enjoy those Atlanta hot wings that, if anybody remembers that.
Lemon Pepper Lou.
Yeah, but no, I think it was a great trade, and especially because the Clippers, if they're going to win in the playoffs, it's going to be this year. With the Lakers injured and not getting practice time together, which was their big problem during the bubble last year was their practice time. But yeah, so I think what the Clippers did with Rondo was really good.
Yeah, my winner of the deadline is kind of a tie, but strongly towards the Heat. They basically acquired Victor Oladipo for next to nothing. I'm a huge Kelly Olynyk fan, but Victor Oladipo is way better than Kelly Olynyk, and Avery Bradley hasn't really played this year, and when he has, he wasn't that productive. And that's all they got. That's all they gave up. They gave up a pick swap, although there's a 0% chance the Rockets will be better than the Heat next year, so that's never going to convey. And for the Nuggets, Aaron Gordon was an extremely underrated pickup, although RJ Hampton, I think, is going to be pretty good in this league, and it's kind of a price to pay, but the Nuggets have championship aspirations. They lost Jeremy Grant, and it hurt them a lot more than they thought, so they picked up Aaron Gordon. They got rid of Gary Harris, who has been a liability. He's been hurt all these years, and he has a huge contract. And JaVale McGee was a solid pickup as well. They gave up Hartenstein, who wasn't really that good, and 2 second-round picks, which probably won't mean anything. So overall, the Heat basically acquired an all-star for next to nothing. He'll be probably the second best player on a definite playoff threat in the East. And the Nuggets, with the Lakers having injuries and the Jazz not proven, the Suns not proven, the Nuggets realize that this is their chance to make the step forward and make the NBA Finals. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. So, yeah, and the biggest trade, actually, blockbuster-wise in the NBA was Nikola Vucevic. It was a report by Adrian.
Well, that's the biggest blockbuster trade is Nikola Vucevic. Was LaMarcus Aldridge and Andre Drummond just didn't count?
Those weren't trades.
Oh, buyouts?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
So, anyways, Adrian Wojnarowski reported early in the morning saying it would take a substantial offer for the Magic to move Nikola Vucevic, and then 15 minutes later, he announced that they traded Nikola Vucevic. So obviously, their offer wasn't that substantial because a team met it within 15 minutes. So, Andrew, what are your thoughts on the Nikola Vucevic trade?
Well, Nikola Vucevic is obviously a great player because he was an all-star for the Magic. I'm really not knowledgeable on the Chicago basketball scene. All I know is that Kobe White probably is going to have even diminished role with Vucevic coming there, and that's not good for the development of the Bulls players. but I don't see him being there long term. And I feel like the Bulls might flip Lowry Malkin, who is a total bust, in the next couple of years, maybe to build around Vucevic or to flip him. But this is such a weird fit. I didn't see this at all.
All right, Kyle.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. I think the Bulls are 2 games off the 8 seed. So I guess, they're trying to go for a playoff run, but they're already kind of, I guess, in contention for that. But it's like, what's their end goal? Do they really think that they can go compete for a finals or something? I guess it didn't really make sense. I'm with Andrew in terms of, developing players. Andrew, what kind of ice cream you got there?
Vanilla. It's just a classic vanilla Tillamook.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, an awkward fit. I feel like this Nikola Vucevic guy, I think he's getting paid like $28 million a year or something. That's crazy. He's averaging, I think, 20 something points a game. He's good, but he was on the Magic or like 15 and 30. I worry that he's not a winner. So I just don't know how that'll fit.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because, like you guys said, the Bulls have a mainly young roster, and Nikola Vucevic is getting up there in age. He's very productive. I think he's one of the most underrated centers in the league. And for the Bulls, you didn't give up a lot. I mean, Wendell Carter Jr. hasn't been the player that many people thought he would be. The first-round picks they gave up were top 4 protected, so if this trade were to fall flat on its face, the picks wouldn't really hurt them. Like if they could get a top 5 pick, I guess, but for the most part, they won't get a number 1 overall. And Otto Porter Jr. wasn't really part of the rotation, so that was just a dump, and he had a huge contract anyways. But now Zach LaVine has a legit star next to him who can run great pick and rolls with them. And I think it's a great trade for Chicago, a trade that shows that they're going for it. They want to make the playoffs. They don't want to be the 10th seed, or if they're the 10th seed, they're going to be pretty good 10th seed at that. So I think it's a great trade for Chicago. It's a wait and see mode for the Magic to see what the picks turn out to be and if Wendell Carter Jr. could find his form. Because right now it's not looking so good, but I mean, you just got to wait and see to see what the players become or anything like that. So you guys kind of touched on it earlier in the stream. There are a lot of big trades, a lot of trades with the most popular teams, all those kind of teams, like the Clippers, 76ers. But some trades happened that kind of flew under the radar. So Kyle, who was the most underrated acquisition at the trade deadline?
I mean, do you even need to ask? Mo Wagner. Mo Wagner going to the Celtics. I mean, it's just an amazing fit. I don't know if you know. I'm sure you know, Daniel. Maybe Andrew doesn't know. Since acquiring Mo Wagner, the Celtics are 2-0. They just came off a road win versus the Bucks. I mean, if it wasn't for Mo Wagner, they'd probably be 0-2. They'd be a mess. They'd be, on the border of not even making the playoffs. But now that they have Mo Wagner, they're instant finals contenders. So I really like that. And, Daniel Tyson stuff, he's a good player and stuff. I respect his aggressiveness and everything. But I feel like Mo Wagner's just, a younger version, more aggressive, can make a 3-ball. I mean, he can shoot 3 better. I worry about Mo's defense, though. Mo always kind of, even coming out of the draft and stuff, they always kind of said his defense really struggled. But I think he's one of the most fun players to watch. And if he can get back to his college days in the NBA, it'd be something pretty cool to watch.
All right, Andrew. You're muted.
That's a Mr. Key moment. No, I was going to say the most underrated acquisition in the offseason has got to be JaVale McGee to the Nuggets because he was really getting that training in the Cavs, and JaVale McGee is such an amazing player, literally championship center. And I was watching the Nuggets game before this, and Aaron Gordon looks really good with them. So I can imagine the floor with Aaron Gordon, JaVale McGee, Nikola Vucevic. Wait, not Nikola Vucevic. What's the Joker's name?
Nikola Jokic.
Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and Bol too. But JaVale McGee, that's a great pick.
I'm going to stay at the Celtics, not Mo Wagner. I'm sorry, Kyle. But Evan Fournier, the Celtics acquired, that was actually a pretty good acquisition. They gave up next to nothing. They gave up 2 second-round picks and Jeff Teague, who really wasn't in the rotation at all, for a guy who's averaging 20 points per game. So I mean, that's going to help the Celtics a lot. Not really what they needed to get, but I mean, he's definitely going to help. And as you guys mentioned earlier, or it was Kyle, Norman Powell, that was kind of an under radar trade that the Blazers needed to make and also the Raptors needed to make. They went younger, the Raptors, and the Blazers got a legit scorer who's averaging about 20 points per game this year to help out Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum when they're not going. So I think those two trades, especially the Norman Powell one, flew under the radar, and they're definitely going to help their team a lot more than some of these other trades that are getting quite a bit of attention. Also just a brief honorable mention was Rajon Rondo, and people were bashing the Clippers for trading for Rondo. And the thing is, Rondo's not really a regular season kind of player. He doesn't really perform well in the regular season.
Playoff Rondo for a reason.
Exactly. Just watch what he did with the Lakers. Everyone wanted him off the team, especially some people on this podcast wanted Rondo off this team, didn't want him in the bubble, didn't want him to play, and he was one of the best players in their championship run. So I think Rondo's going to help the Clippers a lot. Will they make the conference finals? Who knows? They have a curse on them. Who knows if that's ever going to end? But I think it was definitely a huge acquisition. Lou Will was kind of going near the end of his career. He said he considered retirement once he found out they traded him. So, I think those were the underrated acquisitions of the trade deadline. Andrew touched on this earlier when I said Nikola Vucevic was the highlight of the trade deadline. There have been some buyout action, and for those who do not know, the Nets have got almost literally every single player that has reached the free agent market so far, and except for one, Andre Drummond, who about a couple hours ago signed with the Los Angeles Lakers, and yesterday the Nets also got LaMarcus Aldridge. So I'm going to ask you, Andrew, who was the better acquisition, LaMarcus Aldridge or Andre Drummond?
It's not even a question because Andre Drummond. You just said Dr. J. Why'd you say Dr. J? You tricked me with DeAndre Jordan, but no, Andre Drummond is honestly the greatest pickup that the Lakers have made in the past century because he's kind of that role, that 3-star role that LeBron kind of needs for winning championships because Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade were kind of already developed players. And last year, Rondo, AD, and LeBron were kind of that 3. And Andre Drummond is just kind of that, missing piece the Lakers need right now before the playoffs, and he'll be conditioned for when LeBron and AD come back. So, Andre Drummond, like his info.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm going with Andre Drummond too. I remember watching Pistons games, I think a couple years ago, and he was getting like 20 boards a game and stuff. And I think, obviously rebounding is just such an important piece of the game and everything. And I just think with his rebounding skills and everything, just second chance points on offensive boards and stuff, I think he's a great pickup. And Andre Drummond's still 27, not like he'll probably stay with the Lakers forever, but LaMarcus Aldridge, I think he's 35. He's getting up there. And I think the Nets they're just picking people up because they can. It doesn't even – I guess it makes sense and stuff, but I think
they're
Drummond
assembling the Avengers.
Right.
They're actually assembling the Avengers up in Nets territory.
Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I didn't think they needed LaMarcus Aldridge. They don't need LaMarcus Aldridge, so I was very surprised. And it was rumored that the Heat were going to get him no matter what. And then, I guess winning a championship, like you said, he is 35, 36, so he's nearing the end of his career. So, you can't blame him for wanting to get a ring. He got paid in his career, so he doesn't have to worry about that. I agree with you guys. Andre Drummond, like we just said, LaMarcus Aldridge isn't really going to bring much to the Nets that they don't already have. Some solid scoring, but there's a reason the Spurs wanted to get rid of him and no team wanted to trade him. And Andre Drummond, the Lakers center position has not been as good as they thought it would be. And I guarantee you, and it's a big reason why the Drummond chose the Lakers, they're going to give him a starting role. They're going to give him a bunch of options. When LeBron comes back, they're going to have LeBron lobbing it up to Drummond. The only problem with Drummond is his stats are a little bit misleading. He's not that good of a player. There's a reason why no team wants him and teams keep on getting rid of him because his stats are very incredible if you look at him. But if you actually watch him play a game, he is not that good. He cannot shoot from inside. He's shooting, I believe, under 40% from inside 5 feet, which is horrible for a big man. And his rebounds are mainly his own rebounds, not like really tough rebounds to grab. So I think he's a little overrated, but I definitely think he's going to be a way better acquisition for the Lakers and an acquisition the Lakers needed. I'm not bashing the Lakers for it. They needed to do it. They did it. But LaMarcus Aldridge, not sure why the Nets did that, but I don't know. I think we're kind of headed towards the Nets-Lakers finals, no matter what people want to believe. I think it's just going to be Nets Lakers no
I
matter
hope
what.
it is.
I have a very strong feeling. Just like we thought with the Cavs Warriors, we didn't want it to be Cavs Warriors, and it was always Cavs Warriors. I think it's kind of heading towards that way. Right when we had the league balanced, it's back to being two super teams. So, anyways, Andrew mentioned this at the very beginning of the podcast. A big name that was supposed to be moved was Kyle Lowry. And then last minute, they said, no, they're not trading Kyle Lowry. And the interesting thing is, Kyle Lowry is a free agent after the end of the year. And Kyle Lowry himself thought he was going to get traded. The Raptors organization was like very convinced he'd be traded. And then he didn't get traded. So, Kyle, was it smart for the Raptors to not trade Kyle Lowry?
I mean, I think so. I always envisioned Kyle Lowry being a Raptor and everything. And like you even mentioned, I think he walked down the court a couple days ago and like gave the peace sign. Like he thought he was out and stuff. And they were saying that, he was going to go to the Lakers, but the Raptors wanted THT. And the Lakers wouldn't give him up. So I didn't think that was a smart move on the Lakers' part. I feel like Lowry. I know Andrew's a big THT guy, and I don't know how he is on Lowry, but I guess it's smart for the Raptors. I mean, I just don't know. Like you said, his contract expires. It's all a gamble. It's all a business. But I like him staying. All
right, Andrew.
I'm pretty surprised that he didn't actually go to Philly. I feel like this is a lot more of Kyle Lowry's decision than we might think. And maybe he just didn't really want to leave yet. Yeah, I mean, we saw with Kawhi that the Raptors got nothing when Kawhi left. And they might be getting nothing for when Kyle Lowry leaves. So, history is going to repeat itself. So, maybe it wasn't so smart that the Raptors didn't trade him. Because, what's half a year going to do?
Exactly. That's my thing is Kyle Lowry could now leave in the offseason for absolutely nothing. Now, there's reports that teams did offer the Raptors some players picks, but it wasn't to their liking. And my reasoning for why I'm so confused is instead of just taking a lesser deal, at least you get something in return. But now you're getting absolutely nothing in return if you lose Lowry in the offseason for nothing. And the three teams that want him, they wanted him for a reason. He is a championship point guard. He is one of the best underrated point guards in the league. He's getting up there in age. He's not as productive as he used to be. But I think any championship team right now would easily want Kyle Lowry as their point guard. The Sixers, they wanted him. The Lakers wanted him. They knew they don't have that much assets, but they offered everything they got. And I'm with Kyle. I'm not sure why they didn't offer THT. I'm not sure THT is ever going to be.
No, THT staying a Laker. Don't even say that.
I mean, I'm just very confused about that.
He's such an amazing piece to the Lakers team. He knows his role on the team because he was drafted by them, and he does everything you would want from a player. And he's young. He does what you're not going to upgrade by getting rid of THT. That's exactly what you need him to.
Okay. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. So, yeah, I just think it was very dumb for the Raptors to not trade Lowry for at least – because they were getting some picks, some young players, but not the picks and young players they wanted. And hopefully this doesn't bite them. They could have got Tyrese Maxey was thrown out there, Duncan Robinson, who is a free agent who might not come back anyways. So I don't know. I mean, the Raptors know what they're doing. Maybe Lowry handshake under the table said, hey, I'll resign with you guys this offseason. Don't trade me. So who knows what happens there. Yeah. So that's all of our trade talk. We missed some trades. And, I mean, if you didn't know about them, just Google them. They're all over the place. There were a bunch of trades, as we mentioned. It was one of the most in a very long time. So we're going to end today just on regular basketball talk. And there's kind of a little race going down. With Steph Curry injured this past few weeks, the Warriors have lost quite a few games. And they're about a game ahead of the the Kings for the 10th spot. And for those who do not know, there's a play-in this year. So basically the 1 through 10 teams get into the postseason, and the 7, 8, 9, and 10 play in a play-in. So technically, if you get 9 and 10, you make the postseason, although one can debate that. So Andrew, do you think the Pelicans or Kings can make the playoffs?
I have little faith in the Pelicans. They always seem to disappoint. Last year's bubble was designed for Zion Williams to be shown, and he just didn't deliver. But the Pelicans versus the Kings. So the Kings have a lot of good role players, and they have that one rookie, Tyrese Halliburton. Is that the rookie?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of a humble player, and De'Aaron Fox is on that team, Buddy Hield, 3-point competition winner. And the Kings are pretty dangerous, and they've been under the spotlight for a while. So I could see them, making the play-in tournament, just being them, because they're always usually like top 10 seed in the playoffs. They're close.
Okay. Kyle?
Yeah, I'm higher on the Kings than I am the Pelicans. I think the Kings have a chance to bump out. They play the Spurs the next 2 games, and the Spurs are a higher seed. I think the Spurs are 7 seed or something, and Kings are 10 seed. And I always I like the 1 through 8 type thing and all that. So I guess I'm playing it more on that. But I think Kings guaranteed are in the top 10 for the play-in. But I think the Kings will bump the Spurs out of it and at least move up past them if they can, just because I think they'll take down the Spurs both games.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. If I had to pick, I'd pick the Kings because the Pelicans have been just so inconsistent all year long. They'd win a great game against a good team and then just lose by 40 against the Cavs or something like that. Zion Williamson was one of the most overrated players in the NBA last year, and this year he's one of the most underrated players. He's putting up some insane numbers, some historic numbers, and no one's really talking about it. And for the Kings, I think De'Aaron Fox is one of the most underrated point guards in the league. He played phenomenal last night when he gave a great pass to Harrison Barnes as the Kings hit the buzzer beater to beat the Cavs. And I like what the Kings are doing. I think they have a very good young team. Like Andrew mentioned, Tyrese Halliburton is up there with the Rookie of the Year conversation now that LaMelo Ball's out. So yeah, I think the Kings can make it. The Pelicans could, but I wouldn't really bet on them to make any postseason run, or if they make the play-in, I don't think there's any chance they'd win. So yeah, I think
the Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies, I feel like they're kind of a lock. I feel like they're just staying afloat with the 9th seed, so I think they're not going to fall or drop any or go any higher. But the Warriors, they're struggling without Curry, and I mean Curry will come back, but even with Curry, they weren't insanely good. So time's running out. The season ends in under 2 months, so the team's got to start going and start create separation because it's about to end pretty soon.
Yeah.
So yeah. We have a guest here, so I'm going to ask this guest just to him this question. We gave our MVP picks a couple weeks ago. Kyle, I'm curious, who is your MVP if the season were to end today?
Well, I saw Harden talking the other day, and he was like, I'm the MVP. And I guess for him saying that, if you have to tell yourself the MVP, then you're not the MVP.
Yeah.
But then it's like, who do I go with? And and that's just such a tough question because, I almost need names in a list and I could rearrange them in order.
Well, what about Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Damian Lillard, Curry?
I feel like, I guess Joel Embiid out of those lists, I was really high on Dame Lillard at the start of the year. I thought, God, he's going to be MVP, no problem. And then, he just chucks up threes from almost half court in games and just kind of and he misses a lot. So I don't know if he plays at an MVP level. So I guess Joel Embiid, but I don't feel like he is superior and having just such a dominating season to where, like a Westbrook when he was putting up all those triple doubles and stuff, that was Westbrook's MVP, no doubt about it. I feel like we're almost kind of giving it to Embiid or a Harden and stuff when they have the name. And I don't know if they.
What about Jokic? He doesn't have the name, and
True.
He's performing really well too.
True. Yeah, any one of those could be interesting. Yeah, 2 months left.
Yeah. They're all saying that this is one of the most stacked MVP races where you can actually make an argument for every single candidate that they should win MVP, and it's going to be interesting to see what the media does. I've watched ESPN the past couple of days because of the trade deadline, and all they were talking about is LeBron James, and he's out for the next month or so, and they're still talking about LeBron being the MVP. I'm not sure that's going to happen or it should happen. I'm leaning towards Jokic. Jokic is putting up some insane numbers right now, and the Nuggets are starting to play a lot better. I like Embiid. Embiid's only out a couple weeks, so I don't understand why people are completely throwing him out of the conversation because he's only out a couple weeks. And Lillard, he's right there. The Blazers are playing good, and he's putting up about 30 points per game, so obviously he's got to be there. But that's definitely going to be interesting to see what the league and the media members decide who should be the MVP. That's something to monitor down the end of the stretch. So we have an announcement, though, right before we end. That's all of our basketball talk. But next week, we have hit 1,000 listens total on our podcast, which is kind of a big deal for us. So next week, we will have Ben back. We might, I'm not sure Kyle committed yet, but we might have Kyle back as well. Me and Andrew always, and then we're going to have Holden and Asher to be here. And we are going to watch one of our old high school games live on stream. We will not have a podcast. So for those of you listening on the podcast, tune in to our YouTube channel, Ball Around the Head, next Sunday at 8 p.m. Hopefully all your Easter festivities are done for the day. And we're going to watch our highlights. So if you want to judge us for judging your favorite player or favorite team, go right ahead. It's free to do it. Just watch our basketball play. So also on our podcast, we're going to add a new intro, which our amazing editor added, which I think is pretty cool. And we worked on it a couple months ago. So I'm excited for that as well. So thank you guys a lot for all your support. It truly means a lot. 1,000 listens is just phenomenal for us. But we'll be back next week. Great stream next week. You should tune in. Until then, have a good rest of your week and peace.
Lakers and vote!